Okay, we're gonna start our second topic. So, Dad, you can just tell us like an overview about it and the topic that you're talking about.
The Black Lives Matter movement. So that I think that for me is very similar with the terrorist attacks of 9/11, where um, it's like kind of feeling like you're a part of history. Again, being a black person in America and growing up knowing a lot about history and growing up knowing about Martin Luther King and the 1964 Civil Rights Act and that civil rights movement with Martin Luther King. You had Malcolm X, you had various people, Rosa Parks, all these people that were trying to push for Black American rights.
Mm-hmm.
And so you read about that stuff, and then when the Black Lives Matter movement started, it felt like kind of like a moment where you can try to be a part of history and try to do a part to advance it.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've probably seen stuff like when Martin Luther King was doing his civil rights movement. He's
Yeah.
like the leader of it, right? But
Yeah.
there's other people who are like marching. You know what I mean? They're putting up signs of protesting. I'm not really a big protester or marcher, but what it meant to me is that because of my role, like I am a person of color who's in an executive role in my organization,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like I have an opportunity to try to give other people opportunities that look similar to me, and make sure that not favor them necessarily and pick them just because they look like me, but give them opportunities, interviews, bring them into spaces that maybe they didn't get before. So that Black Lives Matter movement, I know it wasn't about that, but I just tried to make it into something that I could be a part of, I guess.
Yeah. How did you first like learn about this event? Like, was it like from like social media, or like where did you first like snap that like this was like a thing going around, kind of?
Well, I've known about it for a little bit. I think
No,
the
like,
Black Lives.
okay, well, yeah, that's true. You know about it, I guess.
Yeah, I think that the general public, and I don't mean this to be crass, but I think the general public knew from social media with the George Floyd thing, and then it kind of came out for them. But I mean, Black Lives Matter have been around since like I don't know, like 2000, like 12 or 13, 14, 15, like something like in the 2010s. It's been around, but it was trying to do different things. It was mostly about just equality and police brutality and just trying to get fair treatment in the law system, and it was trying to address like systemic racism. But the George Floyd thing like exacerbated that and made it like a big public thing because that was recorded, and then because it was recorded by so many people, then it was put out by the media, and then the media did more news coverage, and then people found out about the organization. But I had known about it for some time just because I'm a history guy, and so I knew that the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Nelson Mandela in the 80s and 90s, like these movements of African Americans or Black Americans or Jamaican Americans, like we are, is just something that I was interested in. So I just discovered it that way.
Yeah, how did the government react to when this first started being like an upbringing?
Yeah, I think again, because the time it happened, I think that it was looked upon pretty shockingly. I think the general public was outraged by it. I mean, you were alive when it happened, so it was pretty outrageous to see a person on the street, kind of essentially get killed in real time, with a knee on their throat, and I think the government's reaction was to try to stand with law enforcement to some degree to in the way of law and order, but toe that fine line to understand that, I mean, what happened was pretty horrible. So I think the reaction was to try to be sympathetic because the person lost their life, but also, be really on the side of law enforcement and the law and justify some of those means, which obviously with that guy who did it being put in jail, that didn't work out. So.
Okay. Lastly, was there a moment that like specifically stood out to you, like out of all of the overview of the Black Lives Matter movement?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing that kind of stuck out to me is obviously it's called Black Lives Matter because it really kind of speaks to Black people. I think that a lot of people have a misconception that it's trying to say that only Black Lives Matter. So then people came out with those silly slogans like "All Lives Matter," which we're not. The movie's not trying to say that all lives don't matter. What we're trying to say is that there's a disproportionate amount of colored or people of color that were being targeted for different reasons, and that those lives also matter. Like they deserve justice and fair treatment as well. But what kind of stood out to me is like when the movement started right after George Floyd, to see all kinds of people, brown, black, Asians, Republicans, Democrats, all come out and march and say stuff about it was pretty cool because, again, the name makes you think that it's only black people should be doing it. It's all about black people. Same thing with the civil rights movement, though. A lot, you think of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and these people, but there were a lot of white people that also had to agree with that, to get those things pushed as well. So it was cool to see a lot of people who maybe aren't of color stand up and have a voice as well. So that was kind of cool.
Wow. Thank you for giving me your overview of that. It's very interesting.